now. We're
Oh
neighbors.
yeah. Hey, stop by sometime or drop me a text and check if we're in.
For this time.
Sorry about that. I was going to expand my window and I closed it. I will stop by sometimes. I stop at Chameleon Cafe for lunch, like 3 days a week. So, are we ready?
Okay, you guys are live.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna call the May 8th, 2024 Public Art Commission meeting to order. Let's see. We're gonna start out with one second. We're just going to approve the 3/13/2024 Akron Public Art Commission meeting minutes. If anyone wants to review those, I do have it here. Does everyone get a chance to review those meeting minutes from the last meeting? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
I make a motion.
Okay, we got a motion from Katie Beck
Second.
and a second from John Fiume. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, cool. So we need an aye from everyone else. So Steph, Megan.
I said aye.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that
I as well.
Is that everyone we have right now? That's a quorum, right, Summer? All of us. So
Wanted to confirm that we were in a quorum.
yeah. It is? Okay. I got a yes from Summer, like a nod. Okay. All right. Summer, I lost the agenda. I just had it up on my screen. And I think you're muted as well. We have the what was the name of the who was going to speak first?
One moment.
Yeah.
So her name is Bridget,
Okay. Oh,
and Bridget is talking about the Morgan Park mural.
Right. All right. So essentially, you guys were all able to get a chance to look at the submittable or at least the summary email with the images, the sketches for the Morgan Park mural. I sent that out. So if you guys need to see that summary email, it should be in there if you want to bring that up. Bridget, I'll let you take the floor if you want to go ahead and talk to us about the application you submitted.
Sure. So I give you the broad picture overview. We've been working with the community around Morgan Park since September 2022 and have made some major improvements with a new playground, upgraded basketball courts. We're working on a pavilion and a new trail. And one of the things that we were going to try to do was a mural with a Kaboom project last summer, and made the decision to kind of put the brakes on that because we hadn't really done full community engagement. And so we ended up getting an Arts Forward grant to do a mural. This year we have done 6 oral histories of those that have lived or had business in the neighborhood. And then have had several sessions with the Rich Kids program out of South Street Ministries that Dara Harper, our artist, worked with. And so from that, and from conversations with our core team working on the park, Dara created the draft, or the sketch that you saw. And so we're seeking approval to put that up in Morgan Park. It will be affixed on with 2 posts on either side.
So Bridget, I didn't see what the size of it is.
Let me look.
Because I did not see that in the application.
Similarly, I saw a picture, but I didn't see the exact location, I guess, where the mural was going to be as well.
Yeah, I didn't see a picture of where the mural is going to be. I just saw what it was going to look like.
Okay. So It's a good question. I don't have that. I saw it yesterday. I'm gonna tell you, I think it's like 3 feet by 8 feet in size. And I can get that for you. And then if you want, I can share my screen. I do have the map of Morgan Park pulled up, and I can show you exactly where we want to put that. That's okay. I will do that. If I can find, hold on. I think you're seeing my calendar and not what I'm trying to share. Zoom is being weird. Hold on. I'm sorry. Okay. So this is Morgan Park. The parking lot is here. There is a sidewalk to nowhere right now, which will host a pavilion here. And so the proposal is to put the mural right here. So it's sort of diagonal, where you can, and it's two-sided. So you could see it from the road here at Morgan Avenue and from if you're playing in the park over here.
Bridget, this is Summer.
Yeah.
Could you snip a snapshot of this location and then put a mark where you plan to put the exhibits?
Sure, and send that to you?
Yes, please.
Sure.
And then Bridget, I assume we saw the drawings, but we assume that is that the final look?
No, it was her sketch. And so it's right now being put on the board this week, actually, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. She's working with the rich kids at the front porch.
Okay.
And so she has it sketched on the board, and they are working on putting the color to it right now. And then she'll, take it from after that to clean it up and make it a final product.
Super.
Bridget, will the pavilion block it in any way, or you won't be able to see it because once the pavilion gets there?
No, it won't. It won't.
Okay.
I mean, maybe from one side of the park, but that would be like if you're standing on the trail between the pavilion and the fence. That'd be maybe the only part where you wouldn't be able to see it.
So I saw the picture, like the aerial view. Is there a wall there, or are you guys going to be like using posts and like wood
We're
to
using-
create a structure?
Yeah, we're using
Okay.
posts. Yep.
So in terms of like using the posts and things, you guys are planning on creating, it was a 3 foot by 8 foot structure, and it's going to
Mhm.
be like elevated up in the air on posts, I'm assuming. You'll have like a flat board and you're going to paint onto that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
On both sides.
Okay. Summer, is there any sort of like, I'm assuming there is, but like Parks and Rec or construction standards or anything for that they also have to go through? I mean, this is our public land on the park, right? But I'm assuming you guys have all that as well. Um,
So that's why I
okay.
had asked for
Yeah.
the location and the mark so that I can go to our service
Yeah.
department and just make sure that they don't have any plans going on where, your art, you put it up and they might have to move it.
Take it down.
Also,
Yeah.
you said there's a pavilion that's going to be put there. So I just want to make sure that once this goes through to the commission, then I'll take it over to service and just make sure the location that you're putting it is in what public service or recreation has going on.
Yeah, I would just want to point out that us approving it would just be the art, not necessarily like the structure, like the post depth or materials or anything else, which might need to be approved by the services or Parks and Rec or other commissions as well. So we would just be looking at the art and the placement of the art, et cetera. So
Right. Yeah. And
okay.
and most I've had the conversation, and Parks Maintenance
Mhm.
is probably going to be putting it up for us.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or building maintenance, depending on where it ends up.
Who did you speak with that agreed to do that?
John Malish.
Okay.
I also, just to let you know about the pavilion summer, I just got an email today with the schedule for the pavilion, which was supposed to be complete this month. And it looks like some various things like permitting stalled the process, and it's actually happening mid-July now. So my thought is that we would probably wait to put up the art piece until that's done, just to avoid any damage that might happen during construction accidentally.
Okay, so then you want to put this up after July, once the pavilion has been put up? Okay,
Yep, that's my thought process right now. I think that probably makes the most sense to sort of complete the whole park with the, finalizing it with the piece of art.
yeah, that's smart. Yeah, why not? Okay.
Um,
And have you been speaking with John regarding the pavilion also?
No,
Oh.
actually, it's in the engineering department. So, Chuck, Charles, let me look.
Okay,
But I can also I can forward you that if that's helpful.
yeah, you can just do that.
Wayne
Mhm.
Backus and Chuck Hirsch. That's who it is. But I can forward that to you so you have that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Mhm.
um, so funding, maintenance, materials, etc. for the mural, you guys would be providing all that?
For maintenance.
Hmm.
Yes, yeah. I think talking with Dara, she estimated that it might need maintenance like every 3 to 5 years. And she
Okay.
estimated 200 to 800, which we would include in our budget going forward. So definitely like looking out 3 years and for sure 5 years,
Oh, so
dependent.
you guys would be like putting in your budget like funds for maintenance for the mural every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I read the story. I personally don't have any other questions about it. Megan, Roberta, Steph, Katie, you guys have any other questions about this?
No, I do not.
I just wanted to mention the kids doing the artwork is wonderful.
Yeah.
That gives them ownership for it and a part of the park. So the rich kids are doing a great job.
Yeah, and we're planning on having a grand opening for the park, which was supposed to be mid-July, exactly now when the pavilion's being constructed, so that might change, but one of the things we want to do is highlight obviously the mural, but the rich kids' involvement with that and kind of honor them at the event.
Megan or
Yeah,
Leo? Cool.
it's being worked on right now this moment down the street in the neighborhood. I guess my only question was, is there just a plan to like coat it with something for potential graffiti just because of the park being new and not as many eyes on it in the off hours?
Yep.
Cool.
Yes, she has already bought that. Actually, I think I bought it for her and delivered it. Yeah, it will include a graffiti repellent coating on top. Yes.
'Cause that's a big thing and it's getting bigger, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's the only thing I got. Thanks, Bridget.
Yeah.
Megan, you got anything?
My only thing is that I trust Bridget with every park that I have seen her do, so I have nothing. So I pretty much I read it and I was just like, oh, this is good to go. So yeah.
Thanks, Megan.
Awesome. Well, do we want a motion to approve this
I
this
just
art?
have one quick question. I'm sorry.
Oh, yep.
Bridget, how long do you plan for this to be in the park? I know you said you're budgeting and maintenance for 3 to 5 years. Also, if there's any graffiti, you guys will also take care of that, correct?
I'm sorry, you broke up
If
the
there's,
last
if there's,
part.
if there's any graffiti, you guys will go there and take care of that. And
Yeah,
it's
we
just,
would probably talk to Keep Akron Beautiful first, but yeah, we'll take care of it if they're not able to.
okay. And then what's the length? What's the time frame that you want to keep this at?
You know what? I think I put in there 20 years as long as we're doing the maintenance and upkeep. That seemed like something that would be our idea, and then we would be responsible for removing that mural at that point.
That's all I have.
So Bridget, the only thing I would consider is within those 20 years, just to consider if it needs a refresh, not just because of age, but what I'm talking about, just because of the times have changed. If there's a new group of kids, just if it's worth repeating the practice for the effectiveness or the impact. And that might be something that you all vet out within like 3 to 5 years or something of that. So I know it can be more costly that way to actually recreate it, but then funding sources might have changed by then as well. So I would just suggest keeping your mind open to doing that, just for the sake of any other, what's going on in that neighborhood and all the good stuff.
Good point. Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
all I
keep
have.
last year's and then running it by the commission every 3 to 5 years in case you would want to like redo the art. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Um, all right. On that base, I'm okay with everything that I saw in the application. I think everyone in has gotten a chance to speak. So I'm okay with the project. If we get a motion to approve the art.
I motion that we approve the Morgan Park project.
So John Fume motions to approve.
A second.
Megan DeLong seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Okay.
Aye.
So it sounds like we have a quorum. So, Bridget, we approve the art for the mural. Yeah,
Thank you. I
course.
appreciate the time.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I'm excited to see it up. We'll have to get some updates. We'll all share it here in the meeting when we see it. So, all
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, of course. Feel free to stick around, or if you don't want to stick around, you don't have to hang out. It's up to you. All right, so next we're gonna have Mac give us updates on the public art database.
Hey, Marcia, I'm sorry, Bridget, thank you. If you don't want to stay, you can hop off, or you're free to stay on if you want to continue.
I might
listening.
stay because
Thank
I'm
you.
interested in what Mac's doing. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna listen for a few.
Okay,
No,
well,
please
thank
do.
you so much for your presentation.
Thank
But
you.
you're welcome to stay if you like. Okay.
Well, hello there, everybody. It's good to see you again. So this is actually kind of cool. I was looking at our original proposal, and I know we started this project a little later than originally planned, but it was May 10th of 2023 when we were originally supposed to present our 25% progress report. And I think we're a little bit past 25% now. And so with the warm weather, we're out there and about and capturing some more public art pieces. I'm assuming here I can share my screen and show you some of the data collection and inventory so far. But
Go
I
ahead.
also wanted to mention and bring up too that we've also gotten some press coverage for this too. I don't think a press release ever went out, but Signal Akron reached out and we referred them to the Public Art Commission, and then also answered a couple questions. And then based on that, the Cleveland Plain Dealer also was interested. I believe that they have a section maybe once a month where they try to cover a story in Akron. And they were aware of the statue on Mull Avenue being hit. And that led them then to the article in Signal and wanting to cover a similar story. So been a lot of coverage and interest in that. And before going into the inventory, does anybody have any questions? No? Okay.
I
Cool.
do.
Well,
I do. I'm sorry. When you said no press release went out, for what would the press release have been for?
announcing that we were doing a public art inventory.
Oh, okay.
Potentially,
So
I
we
know you
did
and I had
one.
talked about it,
Okay.
but it initially Cleveland.com asked if there was one, and there wasn't. So we just referred them, and then also made sure it was okay just to answer some questions.
Okay, so you're saying no press release went out about Art X Love was selected, and
Correct.
okay. Let me work through that. Okay.
But I will
Sorry
say, if the city did want to put one out, I imagine you could probably get additional coverage on Idea Stream, in the Akron Leader, and other publications, and that would certainly help us when it comes to the desk work that's going to be on like the back end of this. A lot of the public art in Akron doesn't have any attributing like signage next to it. So we're going to have to do some desk work to find out when it was put up, who was involved, who it was funded by, and who the artists were, of course. We want to gather as much of that information as we can so that when we do get to questions like who maintains this, who created it, you have the ability to contact the artist who made it, or the funding partners and see if they can assist, with, preserving the work.
Okay.
And if we do get the community involved, it might help us answer some of those questions. I mean, I'd love to be in a spot where maybe if we're at a site like in social media, someone can mention like X, Y, or Z. Like for example, in Waters Park, there is it's kind of like a sculpture. It looked like a bird bath to me for ages. And we posted about it on social media. We just visited it. And somebody mentioned that it was actually a sundial and that the metal component that was in the middle of what looked like that bird bath, that looked kind of hollowed out like a bowl, is where there used to be a metal piece for it to function as a sundial. And so that was just an interesting learning. And who knows what else we might find when the public starts seeing some of these art pieces.
Okay, we'll talk more on Friday. And then, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so summer, I mean, I know capacity is a challenge. But if I'm understanding what Mac's trying to get at too, and I know that we've discussed as a commission, we're really trying to draw some attention to us and what our function is. And this project could be a nice vehicle for that. And when I look at Mayor Malik's social media tools and the amount of communication that he's been doing, which is quite frankly brand new to the community to this extent, this might be an opportunity to get to get us noticed through some of his weekly or whatever it may be, including when Mac stumbles upon something as he just described that has very unique to a given ward or something like that. Might be worthy of bringing that to attention. Again, I know that's another huge marketing communications project, but there might be some opportunity for us to use already some established communication processes that the mayor and I think it's Stephanie, I believe, who's already put into place to kind of draw some attention. I think that might be another opportunity for us to be using our logo and things of that sort. So it's not something to take action on. It's just our formal action, I should say, Andy, but it's just an idea.
Well, that's a wonderful idea. And I know I'll talk to Mac more about it on Friday. But it's also all about writing that press release and gathering all that information to submit to our comms team for them to push it out too. So we can work through that as we move forward as a commission. So we can, those are all great ideas, and I would love to do that too, to get the commission out more. So
yeah, I have also seen Mayor Malik has put a few things up. I think he someone reposted the Signal Akron article that you mentioned. I saw that. And I know he also posted the RFP for the call for artists, I think too. The mayor's office page on Facebook did at least. I don't know what goes out on Instagram as much. I follow it, but I kind of tend to flip through it. So
yeah, so information that I get, I send. And then also when we do RFPs or call for artists, I push that through to the mayor's office for them to do a press release. Because once they do a press release, that goes out to all of the media and all of the newspapers and things like that, so that they can take that story also. So and we have to run anything as far as communication through the comms team. So yeah, so we'll continue to share stories, or whenever I see a story, or Matt, you sent me that story, I sent that right to our comms team so that they could push that out to the community.
Yeah, I will say Cleveland.com did include a link to the Public Art Commission's website. And then in terms of the capacity side too, kind of to John's point, we're here for the fire hydrant to be turned on. If people are living in Akron and have questions about the public art around them, you can give them our general contact email address or put that in the press release, and they can submit inquiries. What is this? Who made it? Is this city owned? We won't have the answers to everything, but it will help us maybe find some of the things that are in the in-between spaces. Because something that I'll discuss when we are going over the going through the inventory so far is that Yeah, there are a lot of different things that we are assessing and including in this, and we have found that there is art that is owned by the city that is not on city property, and there's also quite a bit of art on city property that was not put there by the city, or maybe with the city's knowledge. And so long term, I think there will be some discussions that will need to be had on contracts and arrangements. For example, I was going back and forth with Dan Rice. I just had some questions about some of the public art that's on the towpath on the Ohio and Erie Canalway. And it's his understanding that all of that artwork is it's on city property. It's city responsibility, but that it was paid for by Ohio and Erie Canalway. And if it does get vandalized or maintained, Ohio and Erie Canalway can help with engaging their funding and partners to maintain it. And I believe, that's probably been done in the past. But in terms of ownership, it is the cities as they see it. So
And that's
we're
good
going to make sure.
information. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
we're going to make sure we
as
include all of that.
administration has changed, we don't know what's what, and who gave what approval. So that's good with all this being documented.
Exactly. Well, here, I will share my screen and I'll show you a little bit of what the inventory looks like so far. Let's see here. Okay. Can everybody see my screen there?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Okay, so what you're seeing here, this is what our survey looks like when it's live. So if Elise or anyone else was out there right now and they were collecting information, dots would be appearing in real time as we logged more information. I can change the map. So if you want to see a satellite view of anything or you want to see more detailed landscape type things, like you'll see it. I was curious if the satellite imagery for Morgan Park was up to date. It's actually not. You can still see like the old basketball courts there. But when Bridget was talking, it was cool to hear, because we did go and visit it, and I'm going to put it on this version because it's a little easier to see the dots this way. But you'll see this is one of the dots for these public art pieces, which are these wooden panels. We have a lot of these in Akron so far from what we've been seeing. Stoner Hawkins Park was one of the ones that Summer brought to our attention as being a point of urgency to catalog it. And so it was a similar type of approach where panels were painted, like wood panels were painted. They were attached using zip ties. It does not appear that any protective coating has been put on them. And the panels at Stoner Hawkins had started to fall off. Some had sunken into the ground. Some were beautiful and actually in very good shape. And so it's an interesting question long term about whether the commission of the city would want to put a protective coating on these, or pull them down and put them in a place that maybe isn't as exposed to as much sunlight. In the case of these panels at Morgan Park, they are only painted on one side. So when people are approaching the park from the east, there's nothing on the other side of these. So that's just an opportunity potentially for more wayfinding or color or signage, if not this, with future art projects. The way the inventory works is, all these dots holds the data that we have captured, and there's a lot of data. So you can see me scrolling here on the right. We've got the photos, the type of art, whether it's accessible or say it might be in a storage room, the exact geospatial coordinates, the ward that it is in, whether it contains a sign or label, materials, the approximate height, width, and depth of the piece, the condition of the artwork, which is either, I'm trying to remember if there are 5 categories, but it's either excellent. Yeah, I think it's 5 categories: excellent, very good, neutral, poor, and then like broken or damaged. The inventory includes a checklist where we can, there are lots of different condition types. So we can mention if it's faded or uncoated, or if it's missing pieces. Maintenance notes, and again, some of this information, this is for us internally. This isn't necessarily all to be public facing, but this is so that your own teams or the parks teams can look at this and make it, understand what's involved with this art display before they go out to see it. So in this case, I did mention strange location on one sided only because there's an untapped opportunity there to display something facing the public who might be walking to the park from the east. There's also individual pictures of all of the pieces, the owner, and then the date and time of the assessment. There are other categories that we capture data for when it's available. So when the piece was installed, who the funding partner was, if there was one, what the budget was. And the nice thing about this data is that when this is finalized, I'm just going to the analysis page here. This is all sortable. So if you wanted to go look at every piece of artwork on the map that is broken, it's literally just a toggle within the legend. So you'll be able to filter this by just the paintings or just the sculptures or just what's in excellent condition or just what's broken. You'll be able to filter it by artist. Everything in here is highly organized. So you can see right here that we have currently captured, let's see, we've got 300 photos of public art. These are primary photos. So we had talked about getting like high quality images. Obviously doing some of this in the wintertime was not the best weather or environment to do it. So the ones that we want to really showcase for Akron, we can always go back and take other pictures of. But these were the best that we could get, in the environment that we had. And then the type of art, the breakdown of how many we've done so far. So we've got 41 paintings cataloged, 30 sculptures, 18 for furniture. That is because there are some questions we'll be working on with you in the next stage about how do we want to organize some of this data? Like, do we want painted benches and picnic tables to be part of the public art inventory? For example, there are community painted picnic tables at Summit Lake. They're beautiful. Some are in better condition than others. Is this a tool where we would want to be able to share that information with the Parks and Rec department or others, so that if you wanted to send out a team, like as Bridget was saying, if Keep Akron Beautiful is going to go out and remove graffiti, well, you can use this tool to be able to give them a map of where all of the graffiti needs to be removed so that they can plot a course and get the most done in the least amount of time.
Would
Does everybody
with the painted picnic tables and benches, would that not apply like the artwork on the towpath, for example, in Summit Lake, that it's the city's? Or are you just saying in general as an example?
Those picnic tables that are at Summit Lake, we have collected them as if they're city owned and city property. And what we can do as we go through this is if we find out that those benches were purchased by Ohio and Erie Canalway or the Civic Commons, and if they're being maintained by Civic Commons, what we can do is just edit that data so that if you were to look at this map of all artwork on city-owned property, you could filter it for what is owned by the city and what isn't. So we're erring on the side of caution to try to cast a wide net so that we can have these conversations. So for example, there is a I know you know this, Leo, the Adirondack chair that's there at Summit Lake. It's got quite a bit of handwriting on it and like little minor vandalism and things. So, is that for Ohio and Erie Canalway to clean up? Is it for the city? It's a question that I think long term this will help us get the answers to. I'm going to keep scrolling down here. So almost all the artwork that we've assessed so far is public. We are about to start going into more of the recreation centers, and tomorrow we'll be going into City Hall, where we know there is quite a bit of art. Summer will be helping us get access to some of the floors that we might not otherwise be able to reach. These numbers just correspond to the volume of art that we've collected so far. It's primarily Ward 8. You can see we don't really have much here for Ward 9. We're still going out now that the weather's good. We're actually got a lot of time scheduled to go on out. We also indicate what floor the art is on for the interior spaces. You know, some of this data that's on here, this is just the way they present it. So it would not look this way when we make it public facing. You can see here that approximately 43%, almost 44% of the artwork that we've cataloged so far does not have a label on it. That some of that may be because some of the places we've been, there's the artwork that Art by Love put there from the At Play project, and all of those have signs on them. But there's a lot of others that are missing it. Let's see. A lot with the materials. The uncoated wood is not holding up very well. I think we'll have some really good learnings to share about what holds up best. Let's see.
Quick question. You
Yeah.
scroll back up to materials. I was wondering this when you went through too. I'm wondering if there's like a standardization for this, just as a data person, kind of way there's categories for other things. Like there might end up being like just with a misspelling or capital or lowercase letter here, like 3 different, spellings for wood example. Or I see in here, there's one that says syncrete right under concrete, that kind of stuff. Or like pole with a period after it, like pole being like or foundation might be concrete, like that's just like there's some ambiguity I guess in the materials, etc. I'm only saying that because I could definitely see students at Akron or GIS students or people wanting to use this for research or like academic purposes or to run analytics, and that kind of thing could be useful, like looking at the kind of materials used over time, for example, for a research project. So, or if you
No,
ever want help with data cleaning or stuff, you can always reach out to me, by the way. It's like part of my professional work. So
no, it's really satisfying to actually do that. And that's a good call.
yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. A lot of this, sometimes when you're in the field, particularly in the winter, our hands are like freezing, so, but we can actually make all those edits from our desks. So the students can too. So let's just say hypothetically, we complete the inventory, but we don't have as much information about the budget for the projects or the artists as we would like. That would be a great task to work with the GIS department at the city or others to task students with like a ward or a park and to fill in some of the gaps or clean up that data. But our goal will be, to your point, Andy, to actually have a lot of those things, particularly the categorical things, cleaned up so that when you do search for, concrete-based artwork, like you're not gonna miss the one where concrete is missing an E. Because this is like a spreadsheet. It can be very sensitive if there is an error in like a spelling when it returns search results. Let's see. I'm going to keep scrolling. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to ask.
Hey, Mac, along those lines, I think I heard you say broken was a category, damaged was a category. We're gonna really, if that's the case, we're gonna really need to understand the definitions. And I think having a separate tab on definitions or what have you could really support this, because part of that also just becomes your and Elisa's opinion perhaps. So I would try to keep this as, I guess, in as much as possible in layman's terms. And then when we as a commission, or a layman's approach, I would say, so when we as a commission get to the point where maybe there's dollars to rehab a given piece of public art, that's where we would hire, the expert to go and, you know what I'm saying?
I
So,
do.
yeah.
So
And I think you mentioned there's ratings as well. That might help.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I would even add to that, like on top of a definition for what broken, et cetera, worn means, maybe also a modifier and like how broken it is. Like, is it smashed on the sidewalk and irreparable, or is it like have like a tiny crack in it? That's a pretty big difference, you know? I'm sure the images help with some of that,
They do, and that's the only reason why I brought it up. We do have notes where in every instance of a broken piece or damaged piece, we've tried to provide more detail. For example, the Don drum that's located in Cascade Plaza has multiple pieces of metal that are missing screws. And so we tried to highlight that. We didn't there are lots of like triangular and angular shaped pieces of metal there, so it's very hard to be specific other than saying, you know, it's on the middle north side of it. But we do have photos for the details. And we did, because of the breadth of what you might consider broken, we added a category for at risk or danger, meaning that if we saw something that represented an immediate threat to the public, we wanted to be able to have the facility for there to be a notification to immediately go to like 311 or others if we were worried that something was going to fall, or, you know, cut somebody. But when we give this report, you know, we've discussed our goal with this is to make sure that you can continue to manage this independently, you know, if you would like, ongoing. And so that will include our, like, a small paragraph of what our objective parameters are for categorizing things the way we do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for me it does.
This is Summer. One quick question. If you do come across anything that is what you described, hazardous, may cause damage or something like that, 311 is definitely where you want to go, but please copy me in on that so that I can make sure, so that I have the follow-up to make sure that it's been cleaned up, taken care of, and so forth. Because what we don't want to happen is, you know, be liable for anything that's old stuff. So yeah, so if you come across anything damaged like that, please contact me.
Yeah, and just so you know, like, this is exactly what we did when we came to the sculpture in Mull Avenue.
Yeah.
We contacted Summer immediately upon noticing this. Like literally the day after it had happened. It must have happened the night before. I believe it's being fixed right now, or Summer, I think you had said so.
Yeah, Keep Akron Beautiful. They're working on fixing it up.
We also took some separate photos as well, that are not part of this inventory. When we do find things like this, we did notice that there are not any reflective arrow signs on the outer perimeter of this roundabout. And since this is the second time that this sculpture has been hit by a car in the last 6 months, you know, perhaps there's a bigger solution. You know, it's certainly not the artwork's fault for being there, but maybe there are other solutions to ward this off from happening in the future. But the good news is that no parts of this appeared to be permanently damaged. There was one screw missing down here. But from what I understand, this was a donated piece of artwork that had already been privately displayed over several years. So I think it had some wear and tear before it went up. A small note, not a matter of danger or anything like that, but it was just like a slight surprising observation. Obviously, you know, the rubber worker statue is one of our most iconic. I did notice that there was a little smiley face on the crotch of it. If you read the news article in Cleveland.com, I did not actually call that out. They noticed it when I was going through the inventory. I don't know if it's chalk or if it was a scratch, but it's not observable to anybody unless you are literally up and right next to it. And we do, when we're out there, try to get a very detailed look at all of these pieces of art so we can have a detailed assessment for you. Also want to show other, let's see. Yeah, there are things like the mural on the parking deck, which I believe is vinyl pasted to limestone. I don't know if any of you had seen it. Part of the wall had collapsed a year or two ago. And so it was really interesting. This whole section right here had fallen down. And so it was interesting to get up close and see that it had essentially been glued back together. It kind of looked like puzzle pieces. And other than you know, one or two pieces missing, you know, looked okay from far away. But we did notice some peeling. We did notice some minor vandalism here and there. So just things to keep an eye on, because I do believe this one was maybe funded by the Ohio Erie Canalway, and it's sizable. So it's, I think, pretty iconic. I've seen it in some other cities' public art plans. So it's a good one for future consideration. I could scroll through this all day. So is there any place that you're curious about or things you'd like to see or know more about from what we've been uncovering so far?
I'd be curious if we could just like have access to it, not necessarily to enter data through Survey 123, but just to
Mhm.
like see it while we're going through. As we get it, getting to 100% complete is going to be hard to measure because of the unknown unknowns, but just being able to come in and see it would be pretty useful just for things like this, for example, like this large mural. Getting the info from you is great too, but you know, it's just interesting to go look through, I guess, and see what's been hit or not been hit. Um,
Mhm.
so maybe that's a
Uh,
question for city GIS folks, but
So we did share the login information and password with them, and I believe you can look at it, but we are currently using one field survey profile to collect the data. So we can share it with you. It's just that you would then have the ability to also, I believe, like edit the data. And so we wanted to keep that within like a control group.
gotcha.
But I
I'm
get the
sure they
impression,
could oh yeah, I was gonna say I'm sure they could set up like that data is all basically just a SQL table. So I'm sure they
yeah.
could just, put it out to like honestly, they could just like send it out to like private GIS page
Mhm.
web app that'd be pretty easy to display. So I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, you can see like that collaborate tab. We can just share the link with the city's GIS team, and hopefully they could then just share it directly with you. Um, yeah, I mean, in the dream scenario, long term, it would be awesome if, kind of like with the city's Lock 3 plan or the downtown plan, if the public could have a layer where they could kind of contribute their own kind of input or observations, um, maybe where they might want to see art. Um, there was like other small things. I'll just put this out there. We have painted benches, but we also have a category in our inventory for memorials. And so we've been mainly focusing with the memorials on like the military memorials that are in some locations and, like memorial rocks or signage. But in the case of like a memorial bench, I'm not sure if that should be in the public art inventory. And so this would be part of a series of questions that I think we'll share when we get to the 75% complete stage of this. Because not everything needs to be in here. But when it comes to how things got here into these public spaces and whose responsibility it is, um, you know, a memorial bench might not be the public art inventories, but knowing maybe who the contacts were who put it there might be valuable to still have for, say, Firestone, community center or Parks and Rec. Maybe they have that data themselves. Let's see here. So I'm going to bring some attention to, because I think this was one of the art commission projects. The mural on Kenmore Boulevard, I think it might have been one of the first projects that was approved. It looks beautiful. It's people have written their names up there above it. So if an anti-graffiti team is going out, um, that could be something that they could certainly take a look at. Um, it's not as big of a deal. Some of the paint has like a single layer or a little bit of spray or graffiti on it. Um, the kind of things you only really notice if you're looking up close. Um,
Gotcha.
and Waters Park. I mean, this bench is so heavily vandalized. This was one of the ones that we repainted 6 years ago, and it had been missing like 4 or 5 pieces of wood. So it was good to see the wood is still there, but it has like marriage proposals and things written on it. This is the third different marriage proposal or like expression of love we've found like vandalized on this specific bench. Um, it's an iconic viewpoint or vantage point for downtown. Certainly long term, I believe the city, and I think I've talked to Justin Chenault, the North Hill CDC has like a vision and plan for what they'd like to do in this park. But they're just a couple other things like, the hardware is still here for this missing piece of wood, but these were all upcycled wood pieces that we repainted 6 years ago. Some are in better shape than others. but I
I
want to
agree.
bring this.
There's definitely a question on like the boundary of it being public art or not. It's
And
definitely
then
like a, yeah.
these memorials, should these be included? It's important obviously to make sure all of the cultural communications are intact, haven't been vandalized, but then there are odd things too, like in the landscaping behind this memorial, there is this odd little like commemorative stone for Cuyahoga Falls that's hidden behind it in the tall grasses. I don't know if it's meaningless or not, but uh, yeah, there are things that we can continue learning about and figuring out kind of as we go. This is a little memorial stone. Sorry, I can flip that photo around later. That's actually not far from the aforementioned sundial, which I always thought was a bird bath because I could never find anything that looked like it attached to the inside of that. Um, let's see, sorry, I feel like I'm going on here for a while, but like, we're cataloging things like this as a memorial. This is the memorial to Waters Park that is in the center of the park. It also has like just some very, very minor, vandalism, like etched into it. It looks like some stuff had been sprayed on the back here in the past. And so, we're really grateful to have this opportunity to go out and catalog these things. I know not everything is in great or perfect shape, but it feels like we can have the capacity to address some of these needs and to identify some efficiencies moving forward. Not just to maintain the art we have, but also to maybe bring it to areas where we might have gaps, such as through the utility kiosk program that you're all doing.
Well, appreciate the time going into it and going out there and documenting everything. I think there's definitely like talks and conversations to be had about drawing boundaries around, for example, the specific like, non, opinionated terms on what broken versus not broken is, what's public art versus not public art, like is a painted bench public art, like painted for like maintenance purposes, or who painted it and for what purpose, etc. Um, so there's definitely like a fine or a gray area there, I should say. Um, it's like not quite, certain. There's definitely things I saw there where I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that belongs in the database at the moment, or if it did maybe when it was painted and now it's not. There's definitely a question of like longevity there and where things are currently at in their state, if they're at like their, disposal timeline, if they're at the point where it's just not art because of how much time it's been. So I appreciate you sharing all that. I don't know if anyone else has any comments or questions. We have a tiny bit more stuff to get through or wanted to get through, but I don't know exactly what time we're wrapping up. I think maybe around 5. So, Mac,
Question.
yep. Mhm.
Hey Mac, I saw a small section that I think said storage. Can you just clarify like where on the map would that like those art pieces go, and then what exactly does that mean? And I'm guessing maybe based on context that like let's say so like Reservoir Park, they just did their groundbreaking yesterday for the construction on the pool. All the art that was there has had to be moved or like taken to other places in Ward 10, or is in storage. Like does that kind of, is that what you're meaning when you say storage, or did I just miss something?
No, you're absolutely right about that. I would say for everything that is in storage, you have a geospatial coordinate for where it is in storage. So in the case of the Firestone Park Community Center, here, apologies, sorry, telemarketer phone call. So in the case of Firestone Park Community Center, they and several other community centers have these wood pieces that were made as part of a summer art experience with Lisa Gargarella and I think Art Bomb Brigade maybe a couple years ago. They're like really cool shapes, they're colors, they're kind of abstract. Some of them are broken, And the one that is at Summit Lake, for example, is like tucked in a corner, leaning against a brick wall. The one that is in the Firestone Park Community Center is in a back room, and it's kind of also tucked away, leaning against the wall. The Firestone Park Community Center also has knitting classes there, and so they actually do have a lot of fiber art in their collection, but they rotate it out for the seasons. So what we did when we were there was we photographed and cataloged all of the fiber art that was major and significant there. That is their property, the city's property, that is stored in that back room. And that was kind of our goal with the storage side. It was to make sure that the city knew maybe what assets it had that weren't currently on public display. A lot of those summer art experience pieces, I think if they're just fixed or painted or repaired, could certainly go back on display. The murals at Reservoir Park, like those were actually murals that we created a while back. So there are 12 of them. We were contacted by Parks and Rec to pick them up. We have put about half of them back on display on the outside of our building. Councilwoman Connor wasn't interested necessarily in having them back, although you certainly could if you want them. But there were two in particular that she wanted to potentially have back at Reservoir Park. We are actually about to apply another coating of anti-graffiti coating on it before returning that to Goodyear Heights to go in storage there.
Thanks, Meg. Any other questions? Roberta, Leo, Katie.
I have no questions, but I think it's really cool, like the progress you've made, and it's made me more excited about it. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to invite all of you to come on out and join me in cataloging some of this. Now that the weather is better, I'll look at a couple dates maybe between now and like June and July. And if you want to come on out and join, you can log the data yourself and see how we do it. And I think it'll make a lot more sense to the questions that we sometimes have and how we're approaching them when you're in the field with it.
Super cool. I'm also really excited. I'm thinking about just like research or analytics that I could do on it to write a paper about some nerdy. So, but I'm like thinking about overlapping this with different like income areas and like materials and like timelines and things like that. I'm like, what kind of things can I aggregate together with this database? It looks super cool. So,
Andy, you're totally speaking my language right there. Like the long-term goal on this, and I hope this is a place that doesn't sound like fantasy that maybe the Public Art Commission can embrace, but culturally, we normally say that the arts can't be quantified. And I think what we're starting to find is in many ways it can. We just need to kind of look at it and collect the data in the right way. And this is a tool that'll allow us to look at, property value, lifetime health metrics, educational stats, public safety, and see long-term, is art having an impact?
yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Well, really appreciate your time, Meg. If you don't have anything else, we appreciate you coming here. Obviously, you're free to stay on the call, like I said earlier, and hang out. We're going to talk about other stuff that you may or may not be interested in. So, really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. I'll listen in, but I've got some painting to do. So thanks all
No
for having
worries.
me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mac.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. So next up on the agenda would just be old business. Well, let's talk about new business first. We do have one new business bit, which is we had submittals for the RFP. We had one from Central Graphics and one from, let me see here real quick. I have it up. Central Graphics and Akron Glass Tinting. Did you all get a chance to look at those? I sent them in the summary email, so the PDFs are up. If you need a chance to like go look at those, they should be there. I replied that between the two that we received, Central Graphics has vastly more experience, but I was talking to Summer before this call, and I'm just going to reiterate all the stuff that we just talked about. The cost that they presented is very close to the initial budget, but we were talking about the prices that we know about, like how much these should be wrapped based off of information just from discussions with Stowe, etc. and wondering if, the prices that were quoted are just along the lines of being close to trying to max out the initial budget versus what they actually cost. So I'm almost wondering if we should wait to get a little bit more information on how much these normally cost, either from like other cities or departments, et cetera, to come back, or looking at getting another set of quotes just to make sure that we're not overpaying like thousands of dollars. That's just my input. I definitely agree with at least waiting before voting to approve on either of these, just to have more information, knowing that there's like a large difference in the price that would be paid for what we get for 20 versus what Stowe paid for what I believe is 15, which was, I think, less than 10,000. So that's a big difference in price. But
Yeah, I think part of the problem, excuse me, and I think part of the problem is how we set up the RFP to begin with.
mhm,
So, but I do agree. I think checking marketplace is good. I will say Central Graphics, I've worked with them in the past, not the recent past. It was a good experience. I do have
yeah,
faith in their craftsmanship and know-how and expertise. But I wouldn't be comfortable approving until we knew, as Summer indicated, of at least getting to see what Stowe's been paying for it and things of that sort. Now, I also say, just with recent experience and projects here at the museum, I don't think they're going to be too far off. Materials have really increased in price
yeah,
and
okay,
this stuff. So it's just crazy. And we've been trying to get as much as, more than one quote on as many projects as we can. So, but I think us kind of waiting to get that information, and then we can always go back and have a call with Central Graphics just to say, look, here's where we think you should be, and tell us, can you get there?
yeah. I definitely agree with just calling them, but also just looking at, what the actual prices of materials are. That was my main concern. Is I know that for the labor costs that it's high, but I don't know related to the material costs if it's high, and I don't know the difference timeline wise between, the information we have on how much other places have paid for them versus now. I mean, if you look over COVID, the lumber prices shot up several, times. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if the materials were high. But one thing we did ask for in the RFP that we didn't receive on either was like an itemized quote. And the only itemization was the wrap for the box itself without any actual like breakdown for materials. So we didn't necessarily actually get everything that was asked for in the RFP on either of them, I believe. So
Right.
I think we could also just ask them for a breakdown on the materials before we ask them about the price.
Yeah,
That way
they
we
should
could
be
also,
abiding by the setup of the RFP, the parameters. So, and they should have known to do that. And I think they
yeah,
probably looked at this as an easy submittal, because I also noticed, I think we got a copy of the insurance from one, but not the other. And then we get the photos separately from Akron Tinting or something. So I
yeah,
wasn't too impressed with how they submitted. I think the process deserves a little bit more time, attention, and respect. And I think they just looked at it as an easy win. So
yeah. I definitely agree with that. I come from a construction and engineering background, so we do these giant, multi-million design build contracts. I'm used to fancy stuff, but I think I was expecting still just a little bit more from the
yeah,
level of detail we specified. So,
yeah,
uh,
but I mean, to me, that's part of this
mm,
process. Um, and we just need to go back and request what it is that we want and have some questions. So I support the next step is with, as Summer indicated, heading, checking marketplace, Stowe, all that kind of stuff, get some sort of gauge of what's going on out there, including as much as she possibly can with the sizes. And then getting a meeting set up with Central. I don't think we really need to spend time with Akron Tinting personally. I
I
wasn't convinced they know what they're doing as
Yeah.
much.
They provided photos for, I mean, it's just my opinion, but I don't know necessarily that the materials are even the same, or like for the wrapping that they would be doing on the boxes versus what they did on the windows. So for me, it doesn't feel like a one-to-one comparison for actual project experience in all of the ways that it needs to be. So
So I will say, looking at, I was able to find, I could not remember the lady's name. And I was like, where's all this documentation, but I was able to find it in my email back in July of 2021. So it was after the pandemic when they did their first set of um, traffic signal boxes. And I'm looking at, they spent for total boxes of 16 total boxes, they spent $8,724.68, averaging out about $545 per box. So when we look at the numbers that we received for just 20, it kind of was like, ooh.
Yeah, it's over three times as much per box. That's
right.
Yeah.
Right. So so that was my big thing of why. But I can definitely reach out to Stowe. I'm not sure of what you meant by marketplace, John, but
I just
I'll
need
reach out.
the latest price, Summer. That's
Oh,
marketplace.
okay. Okay. I
What's
thought that
the
was like
what's the
another
market
company.
bearing at this moment?
Yeah, I'll reach out to
Yeah.
Stowe and find out what they paid, and I'll get some information to send over to you guys, and then you guys can chat about that. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. I mean, we have their info now as well. So just I'll look at it a bit closer. But those are my initial thoughts. Katie, Roberta, Leo. I know that Megan actually posted in the chat here that she also wants to see more information before we decide. But do either of you have any comments on it or opinions?
Not at this time. I'm listening.
Yeah, now knowing the price difference, I'm definitely supportive of like doing more research and finding more options.
Yeah,
But
I'd
also,
like more information too. Yeah.
Okay, so I think on that note, we're just deciding to not, motion at all to like approve either of these. We're just gonna wait and follow up on more information. I'll see what Summer sends out. I'll try to look at it and summarize it and send out to you guys whatever I can from all the information received and see if I can get more info on the fair market value of these kind of jobs for the current time. So
you guys are going to motion to just hold this until more information is presented, because I'm not sure. I need to check with law, but because we did put the RFP out and everything, we can't just cancel it right now. So I just want to, and I know
we're not
people are
canceling, we're
online.
delaying. So
We're
we don't
delaying,
want to
right?
cancel.
We just want to make that clear because I know people are on the call watching, and we want to just make it clear that we are just putting this on hold right now until we can.
I don't know. We need to make a motion. I don't have the RFP in front of me, but I don't think we had stated in the RFP a specific date that we would make a decision, right?
I would have to pull that back up.
Yeah, so as long as we're not past that date, we don't have to motion. Because we're still in the processing phase.
The RFP implied an iterative discussion as well. So I think it implied that we would be able to come back with questions, etc. So I think we could just not motion at all, right?
We don't need a motion for that.
Well, yeah, that'd be fine if we didn't have dates on it, but we need to check that.
I did send the RFP out, or at least the last updated one that I believe most of the details on were updated for in the summary email. I can look real quick.
Yeah, you can find it.
It's here. All right, I pulled it up. It might have been more relative to dates, but I mean, there's language in here that the city reserves the right to negotiate all elements of the proposal, etc. I don't think there's anything in here specifically that's.
Hmm. No,
And we could select finalists. May invite selected applicants to an interview and or provide oral presentation. I think we're well within like what we put in the RFP in terms of communicating back what we would want at least, or the city's at least within the rights to do it. So
it looks like we're good. I just wanted to
yeah.
confirm, just to protect us also. So we did not include any dates or anything like that.
Oh yeah,
so
appreciate
only the deadline date was included. So we're good.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right. And then in terms of the agenda, which I don't have immediately in front of me, let me see. Was there any old business? I don't think so. I think the one thing that we still need to look at is uh, traffic box locations per ward. Now that we know that we're most likely going to be at or under at least the budget that we're able to fund for the traffic box project, we did decide on doing 2 per ward, which I think is going to be like we're going to be able to do. We didn't actually decide on actual traffic box locations. So I'm curious if anyone actually got a chance to go out and look at individual locations from the maps that were shared with us, or locations that were shared with us before. I personally have not. So I'm wrapping up the semester here, giving my students their finals this week and stuff, and then I'm free for the summer, so I can go do some exploration. But
So I have not either, and I need to do that. And I know that Summer did send out the list, so I can pull that up.
I can resend that too. I have the email with that. I wasn't sure whether to include it, but it was a giant file size, so I couldn't send my email without deleting it. So I decided to knock that one off of there.
I thought we also talked about involving council members to help with choosing locations at one point. Maybe that might have been a while ago, but I like that idea of having community connection, like recommending the locations.
I like that too. What's your opinion on like how to go about doing that? Should we just reach out? Summer, should we go through you to facilitate like setting up some of these discussions? Like what steps do we need to take, I guess? I can reach out to council members by text message, so I guess I'm just curious.
So
What official steps?
we can do a few things. Sorry for interrupting. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I can send an email with the locations and ask council to look over it.
Mhm.
Or what I think would be best is if we have a conversation with them to let them know what you guys want to do. So maybe at our next meeting in June, or unless you guys want to get another meeting on the books before, just to kind of have a meeting with council just to say, hey, this is what we're doing. You're not voting on anything, so it will be okay to have a meeting, and then just see what council members will be willing to participate, because not all may want to participate in this. And then you guys can ask them their input. I doubt sending them the big old list and all of that. I think that might be too much for them. Just to say, hey, do you guys have any location specific that you would like to see art? And then just to give you guys a heads up, once you select the locations, I will have to send that to our engineering team for them to say, that's a good location, this is going to be removed and so forth. So the first step is locating them, and then I need to send that to engineering. So you tell me what you guys want to do. You want to have a meeting, collaborate a time that will work best for you all, no more than an hour.
I think a meeting would be good. I know that one of the initial things we talked about in the discussion was having a price, because we were talking about council's discretionary funds and whether they would want to potentially extend to like additional locations or fund additional locations, but we don't actually have a per box cost since we're going to go back to ask about the costs that were provided within the quotes given for the RFP. So I think it would be good to just start the conversation on where they would like to see the boxes. So there's initial interest. That way, when we do come back and we have like a per box price, we could propose, hey, this is, how much extra discretionary funds it would take to do these additional locations you might be interested in order to get, buy-in from council. So in terms of the method of reaching out, I'm not necessarily partial to one over the other. I always like meeting people in person, honestly, just to network and talk to them. So I'm always up, obviously, for like a phone or Zoom meeting or whatever's available, but I'm also okay with an email. I'd be curious to see what everyone else's opinion is on how to approach. So,
or you can even go to council as a public comment and talk to them and let them know what. No, John saying no.
Well,
I'm just thinking like it's another added meeting. It's another added meeting. I'm just trying to control I'm all for the communication, all of that, but I also know that it's another added meeting, and next thing you know, it's another everybody's opinions, and next thing you know, we're off the rails again. And I feel like for the first time, we're actually focused on this project. So I'd rather us to say, this is what's been selected, that type of thing. And I don't know. I'm just a little bit concerned about slowing us down when we've got some good momentum here.
Or better yet, would you recommend me just sending it, if you want to include council, sending an email out to council? Hey, this is what's going on. We would like your input on locations. Please submit your locations by this date. To that date, we move forward. And then the commission will ultimately have the final say of where you will put the boxes. Yes, no?
I think we should just say,
You pick
this
this
is
up.
where we were recommending that they go, the two per, and then if they want to give their opinion from there and or suggest others. But I think if we go in with because you've already done all this research, and we all know that it's always going to, we really want the most exposure, so it's going to be the most trafficked intersections or what have you in each of the wards to begin with. And I think collectively, I think our thought process there is that we've identified the busiest, let's say the busiest intersections in each of the wards, and we really want to look at doing that as a first step. And in the future, maybe then we can solicit their input on additional boxes. But I think making that first impression and that we've made these decisions because it's also the funds that we're spending, that the funds, were granted to us. And I think that us saying, hey, here's our approach, here's our why, and this is why we've chosen these. And then for this first iteration, I think it's a nice approach with this commission and also sort of like, this is our one chance for the commission to put its stake in the ground type thing to say, look, this is what we've accomplished, that type of thing, which I know summer has been one of your desires.
Yes.
And in that case, Andy, if you want to go to council and present it as a whole and with fellow commissioners, I think that's fine. But I think it's better to tell them that this is what we're doing.
I agree with going in as well with the locations ahead of time. I feel like if we do that, if we wanted to see if council was interested in using discretionary funding, if we just use them to advise how we're doing it, that kind of detracts from that as well, in my opinion. So I think it makes more sense just to decide ahead of time based off the research we did, like you said, and then maybe go afterwards, show them what we're already going to do, and have all of it set. That way, there's at least a plan set. We're not changing anything afterwards. This is what we're doing. Should we do anything? Do you want to do anything additional, or do you have any ideas past this, I guess, that you would be able to help with? I like that idea better. That's my opinion.
I'm also cool with that. I just want to make sure there's an opportunity. Like the most obvious spots may not be the best spots. Like there might be like certain lines in the neighborhood where it would be important to like activate an area. So as long as there's some sort of like opportunity for engagement with it, then I'm cool with that.
Roberta, Leo, do you guys have any thoughts on it?
I like the fact that we tell them or let them know the two sites that we've selected, and then just asking them for further funding for other sites. Yeah.
Gotcha. Any other thoughts, Leo?
No, not at this time. I was thinking.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Well, it sounds like we're all kind of like along the same mindset on that then. So I think that's pretty much it for now. Summer said that we have a few submissions for the call for artists that was put out. So that was put out and announced. There's a press release. It was shared on Facebook as well and a few other places. I know Mac, I think, or I shared it on mine. Mac shared it too, I think. Several people shared it. So I saw it go out. Curious, anyone has comments on that, or in summer, how many submissions we have so far? I think it just opened, so we probably wouldn't have too many necessarily off the bat, but
We may have one. I haven't had a chance to go in and look. I'm trying to wait, until we kind of closer to the
Yep.
deadline. I did get one being today. I have gotten numerous calls regarding it, but going in looking every day, I don't
Gotcha.
really want to do that because then I'll get so involved, and I need to finish some other things. So um uh, give me about another week or so,
Hmm.
week or two, and then if I get some submissions, I'll uh, let you guys know. Also, there's a different database. We're not using Submittable for it. I had someone in our IT create something that was a little bit more feasible, also for me to be able to keep track of. So I will give you all access to that shortly.
Awesome. Thanks, Summer. Uh, I think that pretty much wraps up all the new and old business. Does anyone else have any other comments, events going on, concerns, things to bring up?
I do have a question. Are we like gonna talk through all the submissions in the June meeting? Like, is there an expectation that we need to like look through all of those before then?
I believe that I thought, as soon as we get access, we could start looking and start having the conversations, or we could look during the meeting. I don't know that it's that formalized or planned out. I think we just have to review them at some point in some way.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if I should like
Mm,
set
same
expectations for
time. Yeah.
reviewing it next month.
Well, my thoughts were to also put them in some type of format where it's like 1, 2, 3, or ABC, whatever, and then you guys will select. And then you could do like, whoever gets the most, that will be, how you guys pick them through. Um, so that could kill a lot of time. Also, because I don't know if we're going to get 10 submissions or 100 submissions. Um, so I'm just trying to, work that out with our IT to see what's easiest for the group to, select. Or if you guys do like I don't know, Google or whatever it is, where you select which your top 20. And then like John selects his type 20. Whoever gets the most votes, that will be like the top 20 that you select. So we can work that all out once we get to that point. Or you can talk about each and every one if you want. So it's totally up to you guys what you want to do.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I'd be curious just to see how many submissions we get over what timeline, and then just get feedback on it. So if we could just know in a few weeks, maybe before the meeting, how many submissions we have, maybe we could start thinking about how to approach it based off of the volume.
And if you all take a look at our website, the akronpublicart.com website, and go to where it says traffic signal box project, you can see the format of how they will come in, where it says like submit your art here. And it's like a submittable like it's a short application, name, number, address, email, information. That they can attach their artwork, also attach a short bio. Also, if there's someone that wants to bring their art in, we have these applications where they can fill them out and then give us the artwork. We can take pictures of it and then upload it that way too. So a couple different ways for people to submit their art. But I would prefer if everyone just did it online.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds okay to me. I think it's one of those things that we'll maybe just have to wait and see the best way to approach it. So, all right. Well, does anyone else have any other comments, concerns, events, to bring up? Nope. So, all right. So, looks like that's pretty much it for the day. We get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion.
So, Katie made a motion to adjourn. Can we get a second?
Roberta, I second it.
So, we have a second from Roberta. All in favor, say aye.
I
I
All right. So, that adjourns the May 8th, 2024 Public Art Commission meeting. And we'll see you guys again in a month.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
I
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.